Good evening and welcome back to the April 1st Public Council meeting. We are reconvening at 7:09 p.m. And Council has a motion stemming from our closed meeting session. In fact, we have one longer motion, so I'll be looking to Councillor Hyde for that motion.
I move the council appoint Teresa Stark to the Family and Community Support Services Advisory Board for a term of 2 years, ending October 31st, 2027, and that council appoint Chantal LaFrance to the Assessment Review Board for a term of 3 years, ending October 31st, 2028, and that council direct administration to advertise board and committee vacancies as they become available, and bring applications to a future council meeting for consideration.
Thank you for that motion. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing and hearing none. All in favor? That motion is carried. We move now to the public. Councillor Wegener?
I've got a bit of a statement here. Just to protect procedural fairness in this public hearing tonight, both Councillor Chisholm and myself will not be participating.
Thank you.
And we will we will be exiting the meeting.
You're cruising to
Recuse.
the All right, that brings us to the public hearing. It's Municipal Development Plan Bylaw, amending bylaw number 25-25, 60 to 80 Wheatland Trail. The public hearing for bylaw number 25-25 is in session at 7:11 p.m. This public hearing is held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M-26, and amendments thereto. Legislative Services.
Thank you, Worshiping Council. So the purpose of the public hearing is to discuss bylaw 2525. First reading was given during the March 4th, 2026 regular council meeting. This public hearing was advertised in the following ways. On March 18th, 2026, letters of notice were mailed by Canada Post to adjacent homeowners. March 11th and March 18th, notice of the public hearing was posted in the Strathmore Times, and notice of the public hearing was posted on the town's website on March 5th, 2026. There was also a post made on the town's Facebook page yesterday. To date, one written submission has been received from the Strathmore Golf Club.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Pursuant to the Town Council's procedure bylaw, the following rules of conduct shall be followed during the public hearing to ensure procedural fairness. No person shall address council without the permission of the mayor. No person shall speak more than once or for more than 5 minutes, exclusive of the time required to answer questions from council. All discussion must be related to the proposed amendments contained in bylaw number 25-25. No other matters will be discussed at this time. Respect for staff, council, and the public shall always be maintained, and any person who wishes to address council, we ask that you please state and spell your name. A reminder that this is the public's time to provide feedback to council relating to this bylaw amendment. Council is not required to answer questions from the gallery. Council may ask questions of the speakers after each presentation for clarification purposes, and there will be no debating the bylaw during the public hearing. Would administration like to present? Good evening, Mr. Proctor.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Chuck Proctor. I'm the manager of planning here at the town of Strathmore. So tonight I'll be presenting for both public hearings for bylaws 2525 and 2526. The public hearing right now is for bylaw 2525. There are full details in my staff report included on the council agenda. This is a brief summary of that report. The outline or the table of contents today is I talk about the legal addresses, the applications we received, I talk about the project proposal, both bylaws, town policy and planning examples, and then finally my recommendation. So just to get everybody situated, the site there is circled in red. You can see Highway 1 moving east-west there along the bottom of the picture, and Highway 817 running north-south. Just a more zoomed-in photo of the site. You can see the high school track there, Crystal Ridge Commercial to the right, Grays Park to the bottom right, and then the golf course along the west side. The image on the right is kind of the way it looks from a subdivision standpoint, the lot lines, the property lines. So concurrent applications have been submitted by Green Maple Enterprises Incorporated, Harpreet Dillon, on behalf of two property owners, the Strathmore Golf Course and the Turner family. The legal and municipal addresses for the properties are Lot 1, Block 1, Plan 1910233, that's 80 Wheatland Trail. Block 2, Plan 9012129, that's 60 Wheatland Trail. Sometimes these properties have been referred to 40 and 60 Wheatland Trail in the past as well. The two applications we received propose to amend the municipal development plan, that's bylaw 2525, and the land use bylaw 2526. Tonight, 2525, the MDP lands are currently shown as open space, which is usually parks, pathways, schools, and the application proposes to change the MDP to show a mixture of residential and commercial. So the project proposal, Green Maple Enterprises, they submitted this on their application. They propose a mixed-use development consisting of duplexes, townhomes, apartments, and neighborhood commercial uses, including retail, restaurants, professional services, and health and wellness. This colorful map on the screen right now is our proposed Schedule 2 in our existing MDP. The amendments, I'll zoom in on them in a second, but the amendments are made kind of central to the screen. Just if you're wondering, yellow is residential, red is commercial, and then industrial is kind of gray there. Green is open space. I ran out of colors, so I circled it in purple here. That's the change that's being proposed with bylaw 2525. In our existing MDP today, before amendment, inside that circle would be green, so that entire circle would be green. We'll talk about the land use bylaw in the next public hearing. So this is about the MDP. The Development Services Department reviews applications and provides a professional planning recommendation to council. Our reviews of the application include internal circulation to other professional departments and external agencies. The department reviewed existing regional and municipal planning policies. The department also reviewed modern planning practices. I won't read this slide word for word, but there are existing municipal development plan policies that apply to the application that we think act in support. I've included these in my report. I just wanted to put them up on the slide. We'd be happy to answer any questions about these existing policies. Another slide just showing some of the policies that apply, we think. And then our last slide for policy stuff as well. So those were kind of the policy examples that I go into more detail in my report. To talk about planning best practices, again, this is just a summary of that staff report I report in the agenda, sorry. So these are things that we think are modern planning best practices. The application proposes a mix of housing other than single detached residential district. So other than single detached homes, allowing for diversity, support of different lifestyles, incomes. So they propose townhomes and duplexes and apartments. The density proposed is organized in such a way that there's low density around the edges of the development next to other low densities with the higher density stuff in the center along with the commercial. Neighborhood commercial uses are included in the application, and they may contribute to healthy living with services being nearby for people who live there. Another advantage of neighborhood commercial is it contributes to the diversity of the municipal tax base. Right now in our MDP, we have a community goal to reach 70% residential tax base and 30% non-residential tax base. So it contributes to that ratio, having a commercial component involved. Another best planning practice we think the application touches on is that the lands are centrally located in Strathmore. They're next to existing amenities, Brent Boulevard, our school, hospital, rink, Crystal Ridge Commercial there. There's nearby residential to the north and to the east. Another point is that the land can be serviced without a large investment from the town. Ethan Wilson, our manager of infrastructure, is here tonight. but he contributed to the report that the development fits within the current master servicing studies. So these are important engineering documents for the town. The development is appropriate and fits within these currently existing engineering documents without much change. Another planning best practice, the town is growing. There are other communities in Alberta that are looking for development. There are other communities in Alberta that are looking specifically for mixed-use development, which contributes to the economic development of those communities. Again, I've got more examples in my staff report, and we'd be happy to answer any questions on those. And our recommendation tonight is that council proceed with the public hearing and that council take into consideration all the information received at the public hearing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor. Do we have any questions of clarification for Mr. Proctor? My only question is just to clarify, to confirm there are no R1 properties in this development?
Thank you, Your Worship. Great question. There are no R1 properties.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown?
Are there any wetlands in this on these properties?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I think that question might be best answered by the developer who's been dealing with Alberta Environment during that application process. If you'd like them to speak now, that'd be fine, or I think they can mention it in their presentation.
I'll repeat the question
Yep,
when they come
okay.
up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Councillor Langmaid?
Thank you, Worship. One of the parcels of land mentioned in your report is currently designated as urban reserve. And if I've read your report correctly, it's talked about that this is an outdated municipal land use designation. And it's land which is intended as a holding zone, which was intended to change in the future as the community develops. However, other areas of that map that have been labeled as urban reserve don't seem to follow that same concept of lands that would be future developed. I'm talking about lands adjacent to the irrigation canal, lands directly adjacent to Grace Park and the wetlands there. Was there some sort of documentation or history of this site that led planning to believe that this specific parcel of urban reserve was intended to change as the future arrived versus these other parcels of land that were designated the same land use?
Thank you, Councillor Langmaid. It's a great question. I think it's one that would be totally appropriate for planning school. I could write an essay on this exact topic, so thank you. We would welcome you in our department for finding that. Urban reserve is kind of a leftover holding zone from our last land use bylaw. It was used sporadically, different parcels, different meanings. It's kind of an error in our land use bylaw that it exists even today. The very notion of something being called urban reserve is kind of like a past planning technique from a long time ago. The way planners have moved away from that is because there are other types of reserve from the provincial designation that may be confused with urban reserve. So I guess to answer your question, yes and no. I think a more appropriate zone in something that we're looking at in the new land use bylaw would be something called FUD, or future urban development, instead of that urban reserve term. I don't have exact evidence that this parcel was proposed for urban reserve, but all suggestions point to that being the case. There is some other urban reserve in town. I think a canal is zoned urban reserve. It just seemed to be like one of those holding zones that previous planning department and administration used. It's no longer in use. We don't want it to be a thing. We're hoping to fix that in the new land use bylaw. But yeah, all evidence points to the case of this being intended for some sort of holding zone, some sort of development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Proctor? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we have any infrastructure in that area that's easily accessible. I know we've got, like, how close are we to be able to sort of plumb that in? And do we have capacity in the infrastructure that we have there to service a new development of that size?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So infrastructure for this parcel would all come from the east, or primarily from the east. We have water and sewer near the Strathmore High School. And then with Grace Park is actually what we consider Pond 1, from our stormwater system. So stormwater would discharge that direction. It actually naturally flows there already, so they would be collecting stormwater and discharging it along the same route. So servicing of this parcel is actually relatively easy.
Okay, and traffic considerations, I know we have a traffic light at that one intersection, and we've got the entrance to the Stampede grounds just a little further up the way there, and that is along Highway 817. Considerations to how traffic would come in and out of that area according to their diagram. Can you go back to the, did you have the diagram of the development just for a second? I just want to see what that would do to the traffic patterns in that area. So, yeah, because I mean, that is a fairly busy, especially at school time, that's a very busy section. I would like to see what considerations are being.
Yeah, so if I may, Councilor Brown, we've had significant conversations between the developer, Alberta Transportation, and the town, aware of the concerns you have. And so what's been at least decided preliminarily, and maybe decided is the wrong word, everything will focus on the Brent Boulevard intersection. So the currently signalized intersection would be extended so that it's a four-way intersection. That would be the primary entrance in and out of the project. Further north, near the Stampede Grounds entrance, would be a emergency access only. So we would look to have that in the case of emergency only. It wouldn't be a place where we would see traffic congestion. The other thing to consider there is the crosswalk. So when you start to get intersections that aren't aligned along with the crosswalk, you're asking for issues to happen. So we're well aware of that, and we're looking to avoid that in that area. Now, as the development continues further south, outside of the golf course property and into the Turner property, there's already an existing driveway. And Alberta Transportation is open to having an access there, although we may need to look at restricted movements. It may mean a right in, right out. It may mean different considerations just to force and encourage the use of Brent Boulevard as the primary entrance in and out. But because of the size of the site, there's no way that we could service the entire site with one entrance. We do have to focus on alternatives, whether it's permanent, temporary, or for emergency use only.
Okay. And so there's also going to be some commercial development that's going into the center of that. Is that what I'd heard before? Yeah.
That's
and what about pedestrian traffic coming from the schools areas going into the crossing Highway 817 to get to those commercial areas, stores and so forth?
So as part of the upgrade of the signalized intersection would be crosswalks and pedestrian control that goes along with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any further questions? Seeing none, we will now proceed with our list of registered speakers. Mr. Harpreet Dillon, would you like to step forward? And then just make sure that the microphone red light comes on. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Honorable Mayor and Council Member and public. Really appreciate the time today, the opportunity to talk about the proposed municipal development plan amendment, bylaw 2525, and land use bylaw amendment 2526. My name is Harpreet Dillon. I represent Green Maple Enterprise, Inc. I think Chuck and Ethan very impressed with a very detailed overview, which has been already covered. I think it covers quite in detail. The intent here is to share more details, the purpose of our application, and then go through some of the high-level details. What I would like to highlight today is, our application aligns directly with the town's stated intent. There was a lot of engagement with the town, understanding what the town's vision is, town's leadership's vision, and where it's going and what the land uses are planned. So this application aligns for the proposed mixed use of residential and commercial land use. That includes apartments, townhomes, duplexes, commercial neighborhood retail. So I want to emphasize the fact that it's a neighborhood retail where you're bringing all those amenities to those neighborhoods which are being developed here along with their adjoining neighborhoods. And these include restaurants, professional services, and health services. We are here to support the vision and demonstrate how Green Maple Estates will deliver a complete, walkable, community integrated neighborhood. some of those questions which I heard from the council members, really very impressive questions. These are the typical ones which go in the consideration as we go through that. If I can request moving the slide further, please. So as mentioned, what is being proposed here is these are some of the mixed-use development elements: townhouses, stacked townhouses, duplexes, and 3- and 4-story multifamily, along with the commercial C1. So as emphasized, this mix reflects the market demand, the housing diversity, and the town's long-term growth objectives. So we are aligning those ones and seeing, how it aligns with the market demand. Moving a slide further, please. So these are some of the key benefits when we look at, for us, any development we do, it's a 3-leg stool. The value for the community is one of the key legs. Working with the municipality and the compliance element, whether it's the provincial, town, or the federal one, those are the key elements. And the third one is, how does that align with the market so it's viable and it delivers a value? And more importantly, it's sustainable over the time. So what you're seeing here is we are capitalizing on a lot of the amenities which are already there. So the town was amazingly helpful for us to understand things like site services, some of the items which have been discussed before. We wanted to understand how do we bring those amenities, and those can be capitalized for something which is already there. And other key thing in this one is, as you guys see, some of the key assets are the existing golf course, the canal, and the wetland. To us, those are the key natural assets which we are capitalizing on. And that's how we are designing it. It's a very walking trails are there. We want to complement that with those walking trails which are going to all the amenities, whether it's a school, whether it's arena, and all the way to the amenities which are available on the Brent Boulevard. Some of those highlighters, I'm not going to go word by word, but it's great to see when we are targeting some of the key groups which we are targeting is housing for the seniors, the housing for the working groups, and the housing for the local folks who are kind of going through the different stages. So the key thing which makes it very, very lucrative and makes it more attractive for us is that all the schools are right on the Brent Boulevard. So when we see some big developments happening, adjoining the Strathmore, this would be a good place where it provides those future needs as we go along. In addition to that, I think some of the details mentioned at the bottom, it does offer some really compelling use cases for the senior living, the care, the community-centric commercial. A lot of the commercial what we've seen is the health services. We have felt there's a lot of demand for that, and that is something which we are trying to focus. We do have experience where we have built similar neighborhood retails where whether it's my dentist, my optician, whether it's somebody, you have the daycares, you have different things which are adding a lot of value to the community which is close by. So that's the key focus area for us. Overall, when we look at holistically for the community benefits, without going into too much details, I think the housing choices and attainability is a big one. So from our perspective, a range of ownership and the rental options for families, seniors, and workforce residents, it adds up on the local economical activity. The neighborhood commercial supports the daily needs. This is supposed to reducing the vehicle trips all the way to the prime number 1 highway locations only. And we felt there's a lot of need for the local folks. In fact, we did our public hearing way back, and those were some of the questions when the public came over and asked us, how quickly can we see those amenities on this part of the town? So that is something which we have incorporated in. The other aspects are responsible land use. So we are very much striving for that compact, walkable development that aligns with the town's municipal development plan, and it supports the efficient servicing which is already there. Definitely the last element I want to emphasize is that the future readiness. So the redesignation simply enables the future subdivision and development permitting applications, each of which will be undergoing further detailed review, and that is very much the strength of the town's approval process as they go through the subdivision applications, which will be subsequently followed by the permitting from the town. So those are some of the things which I wanted to highlight. I think we really appreciate council's consideration and the community engagement process. We've been very impressed with that. Have taken their sweet time, which is really good, making sure we've been able to reach out. And our goal is to be a long-term partner in Strathmore's growth. So that's what we are hoping for We'll be more than happy to take any questions. My bad, I have a team with us. As you can imagine, this is an ongoing process. So we have our engineering team, which have spent ample time on the traffic impact assessments. We have one of our experts on the traffic side and the civil and the environmental aspect as well. So as needed, as the questions are, I will be heavily relying on the experts to kind of share their details as to what has happened on the project and what our intent is going forward.
Thank you for that presentation. Do we have questions for Mr. Dillon? Councillor Brown?
I'll go first. So yeah, the question that I'd asked earlier was, are there any wetlands in that land parcel that we need to be aware of?
Yes. So thanks, Honorable Councilmember Brown. That's a great question. We do have a wetland area which was designated in there. We went through the very detailed process with the Alberta Environment. There is a lot of details which we discovered as we went through. They had a very thorough process. We've gone through that, and they've given us an approval to proceed with that. But not being the technical expert, maybe this is where I will request Tibor if you want to add anything in terms of the process which we've gone through the Alberta Environment.
Thank you, Tibor Tuss. So to date, a field investigation's been completed. The wetland rapid assessment has been conducted, and a value for the removal of the wetland has been estimated. As we proceed through the development, further studies need to be completed just to finalize that estimate, and a where will occur at the appropriate time.
Okay, so my next question would be, are those wetlands tied in any way drainage-wise to Grace Park? Like, does the water from those wetlands flow into Grace Park? Can maybe CAO Scoble answer that?
CAO Scoble?
With the chair's permission, we would be reverting back to administration to answer this question if you wish.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to you, Councilor Brown. So the wetlands it's a fairly low area of town, and so the wetlands don't contribute a lot to the adjacent water bodies. However, with the way that the project is planned, all of their stormwater will be collected and then discharged to Grace Park. So if anything, we'll actually see a net benefit to that wetland because of this project. As you develop an area, your release rates typically increase or need to be controlled. You no longer have soils or land that is absorbing water, and rather it's collecting water and discharging it to a different location. So what we anticipate to see is that, yes, there would be a loss of wetland in one location, but it actually will either continue to contribute or even increase the contribution to the wetland at Grace Park.
And if I may, do we have stormwater that is presently draining into Grace Park right now?
Yes, we have a significant portion of the town, so a good portion of Brentwood, all of Crystal Ridge, portions to the north, such as Strathmore High School in that area, all currently drain into Grace Park, as well as this property currently.
And forgive me for asking, and my naivety on this, is it treated in any way before it ends up in the wetlands, or does it just flow into them?
So I'll clarify, Grace Park, what some refer to as a wetland, is a storm pond.
Okay.
And so the storm pond is that treatment.
Okay.
So by water going into that storm pond, it's able to collect, it's able to slow down, it's able to allow settlement to occur, and that's what cleans the water as it continues through the system.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And thank you, Tibor.
Councillor Hyde.
Thank you for your presentation and for being here today. So as I was reading through what you presented and listening, there were some attractive words in there. Attainable housing, of course, is something that is a focal point of our plan. I also heard senior living and care. Is there anything conceptualized as far as ideas on what that looks like at this point?
We have, thanks, Councilmember Hyde, great question. We have explored some of the interest with the senior care. The proximity and the location and those amenities do make it very attractive. Definitely, the other big factor is the close access to the hospital. So we have worked with Alberta overall, AHS and other entities to see what the interest is and are there any models where the government can do some investment here. Because when we look at the overall numbers when it comes to the demand for the senior care, overall the demands are way higher than what the infrastructure and the capacities are there to support it. So based on those discussions with the ministry, they're very early days, but we are exploring any possibilities where we can align their investment, if any, to possibility that they pick up some of these sites. I think what the town's vision is with the zoning, that very much aligns with what can be done there. So there is a lot of good check marks. There is a very good check mark in terms of their overall funding does get tied into, the rural areas and underserved areas, and we do qualify on all those aspects. That is not an expertise which we as a developer have, and we will look forward to any of the operators who are very reputable and who've done those things, and we are very much open to work with them and see if that could be a big win-win. Yeah, you're welcome.
Councillor Brown.
Other question. Typically, we have a 10% reserve for schools or parks. Does this new rezoning meet that criteria?
Yes, Councilmember Brown, great question again. I think we do have, we've gone through, working through the process of what that reserve needs to be. I think that is something which we are working with the town to make sure, it is a lot of times the best alignment. How do you go about it so that you're making the best use of it? That's what the intent is.
Okay, so you have a 10% reserve area of that area is for parks, for schools, is that
I
correct?
won't quote on the percentage. Maybe this is something if
That is-
the town
I
expert
just
can
would
add
like
to that.
someone to confirm that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Brown, the parcel was subdivided in 2018, registered in 2019, and that 10% is a registered deferred caveat on title, so that 10% will become town-owned.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much. That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation and your ability to answer questions as well.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present tonight who wishes to speak to bylaw number 25-25? And if you do come to the microphone, could you state and spell your first and last name? Come forward to the microphone and make sure the light is on red. And you could please state your first and last name.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Sommerfeld, JenniferSommerfeldt. I'm a new resident to Strathmore, but I've been in the area for over 20 years, so I'm not new to Strathmore. Anyway, I just would like to add some thoughts to consider as Town Council puts together their decision. My one thought is that the presentation was done well. I'm a teacher, I teach science, and when we do that, you have equations that you work with, and you have your variables, and then you substitute in your values, and then you find your solution, and it all works really well, nice and easy. And that's what these presentations do, is they find the variables, put it into the equation, and pop out a solution, and it's all very pretty and cookie cutter. There are some realities to that site and to that road, though, that are what we would call the uncontrolled variables that I think are important to consider. One is that, as was brought up, some concern about the road, the traffic. It's a through road. It's in your municipal development plan. It's a major artery, and increased traffic and increased weight on that road would increase its wear and tear, which also increases the asset management of that space. We have the infrastructure that's under the ground that will also increase the asset management cost of work on that space. So it's, even though there are benefits to growth, there are also consequences in the domino effect of it that I want to make sure that our community is prepared to handle the cost, the planning, and the asset management of it. There should be a good 10-year plan onto that, and I'm not convinced that that's been occurred yet. Also in the MDP, the second section talks about what developers need to bring, and I don't know yet if all the obligations have been satisfied. My little note here says, has the developer provided and fulfilled all the obligations before the zone change? And that is, I was just taking notes quick while listening. The detailed engineering design, 2.2.3. I'm just wondering if all of the details have been offered prior to zone changing, or are we waiting for zone changes to get the details? And that's a very different obligation if that's the case. And I just think that we should be careful that the details are there. The other one is that, oh yes, we're bringing in more commercial because the idea is that you'll have more job opportunities and that sort of a thing. I know that some of our commercial businesses are sort of struggling already, so I don't know if adding more commercial quickly is right. Growth might need to be more steady to be stable. We also, on that same note, have several apartment complexes that are under construction already. Down by Bayside Place, there's a new one coming in at the south side of Grace Park. There's always going to be a growth plan, and the idea to the variable that sells it is the idea that we're adding housing, but if we grow faster, then we're able to stabilize with our infrastructure, with our water rights, with our water sewer access, with our road capacity, wear and tear, etc. Then a great example is the road that goes down south of the hotel to Walmart on the east side of Kinsman Park. That road is compact, it's crowded, and it's in poor condition. And so all of the management of the assets, including roads, require a lot of careful planning. If we can't take care of what we've already got, then adding more volume on top of it is a dangerous precedent. So those are some of the considerations. I do have some land use bylaw ones that will wait. And yeah, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from anyone? Administration, would you like to make closing comments?
Mayor Field?
Yes.
Sorry, may I ask a couple of questions of the person that spoke first, or do I wait?
Jonathan, are we okay with that? Okay.
Not to slow things down, but sometimes it's good to slow things down. So Jennifer, thank you for coming in and sharing your comments and your concerns.
Sure.
As you see, we did ask some questions regarding the traffic and those sorts of things, and you did mention 2 points that sort of caught my attention. One was you weren't convinced that the assets, the wear and tear on the assets that we have in that existing area, the road, the infrastructure, and that sort of thing were fully considered. Is there something that leads you to believe that has not been considered? Is there something that you know that we should know?
It would be a lack of something. I haven't seen the engineering reports. I don't know what the last time the road was paved or taken care of. I don't know the last time that any infrastructure under the ground was repaired or maintained or serviced. So I don't have that information, so it would just be good to have it considered. On that note too, another point is further south is the school zone. And I think we ought to just consider that this thorough road, all the increase, everything needs to be mitigated, right? If you're gonna add a second road as an emergency exit on the north, and then some kind of other entrance down south where like the area of the golf course, I suppose is, then, you know, the on and off of traffic coming through is going to have an impact on the total use of the road, volume and all.
So I do recognize that adding more sort of housing onto a main thoroughfare will create more traffic and more cars going up and down. Just pointing out that the 817 is a provincial highway, so even within the town's boundaries, we don't really control any of that. That is the province, for the province to sort of manage. So
Interesting.
it is good though, but you know what? We can keep an eye on it, and if it does ever become a problem in the future, be it from this development or some other one, we can certainly bring that up with the province. So thank you for raising our attention to that. I do appreciate you doing that. The other one that you mentioned, I'm sorry if I'm trying to rush you off or brush you off. The other was about the commercial sort of jobs that are there. So you feel that there might be a fair amount of commercial that we have already and an abundance of it. I would state that we don't have that much up in that area. We do have the landing there where there's a few shops in there as well, and I think they're doing fine. Is there a reason that you feel that there wouldn't be a need for commercial or retail up in that corner for people to work or use in that area?
The question is interesting because you're asking if I feel there's a reason people wouldn't need it, and I can't speak to how people would feel or what they feel they need or not need. I'm sure that if I wanted walkability and I lived in the Hillview area, then that would be lovely. I have walkability where I am, and I appreciate that. I do see that some of the community businesses over the years have struggled to maintain a profitability, especially in some of these more north communities. I know there was a facility that was built as commercial space in the Strathaven area, and they once had a personal gym and a few other things in that building, and then they all shut down because there's lack of use, and then they opened up a daycare. I believe the daycare is down. I'm not sure what's in the building right now, if it's functional. There used to be a Domino's there, they moved. Domino's moved a few times, you know, trying to tap into the school, the high school population, get some profitability there. So what I'm saying is the pattern of commercial profitability is one of long-term struggle. And I wonder if the businesses that will be in competition with this location appreciate the introduction of the competition, or if they're just making it by.
Okay, well, it's very insightful. Well, thank you for sharing your comments and your opinions, and I will take them into consideration.
Thank you for your questions. Is there anything else before I sit down?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, administration, would you like to make any closing comments?
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. I do have two closing comments. I'm a registered professional planner, and it's my duty to kind of comment on things at a public hearing. This is not meant to be an argument between myself and Jennifer. The Jennifer who spoke last mentioned that not all the development obligations before the zone change have been met. She's correct. This is the start of a very long process, or the proposed start of a very long process that the developer would need to go through. Bylaw 2525 proposes to amend initially the town's largest plan, the MDP, start there, move to land use in Bylaw 2026 proposed. Then the developer, if supported, would move to the subdivision application stage with administration, and then the development permit application with administration. Both of the subdivision and development permit processes involve quite a heavy-duty engineering review, a detailed site survey, detailed site services plan, and you know, all those kind of nitty-gritty details are yet to come. So Jennifer is absolutely right that these amendments do not meet all the obligations that are included for development, but they represent the proposed start of the process. They meet all of the requirements to amend the MDP, and they meet all the requirements to amend the land use bylaw if supported by council tonight. My second point was that I just wanted to state on behalf of the planning department that the municipal development plan and the land use bylaw are planning policy tools. They're not intended to regulate business. It's kind of scary territory when we do that. So just to be very clear, they're planning policy tools that we would use to make decisions on uses, not users, not a type of business. That's up to the free market. So thank you so much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor. Are there any further questions of clarification from council? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing for bylaw number 25-25, being a bylaw to amend the town's municipal development plan bylaw number 14-03 at 7:53 p.m. And now that the public hearing is closed, council will no longer accept any new information before making a decision. We move now to item 4.2, land use bylaw, amending bylaw number 25-26, 60 to 80 Wheatland Trail. The public hearing for bylaw number 25-26 is in session at 7:53 p.m. This public hearing is held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M-26 and amendments thereto. Legislative Services.
Thank you, Worshiping Council. The purpose of the public hearing is to discuss bylaw 2526, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw number 1411. First reading of this bylaw was given during the March 4th, 2026 regular council meeting. The public hearing was advertised in the following ways. March 18th, 2026, letters of notice were mailed by Canada Post to adjacent homeowners. March 11th, 2026, and March 18th, 2026, notice of the public hearing was posted in the Strathmore Times. Notice of the public hearing was posted on the town's website on March 5th, 2026, and notice of the public hearing was posted on the town's Facebook page. To date, one written submission was received by the Strathmore Golf Club.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Pursuant to the town's council procedure bylaw, the following rules of conduct shall be followed during this public hearing to ensure procedural fairness. No person shall address council without the permission of the mayor. No person shall speak more than once or for more than 5 minutes, exclusive of the time required to answer questions from council. All discussion must be related to the proposed amendments contained in bylaw number 25-26. No other matters will be discussed at this time. Respect for staff, council, and our public shall always be maintained, and any person who wishes to address council, please state and spell your name. A reminder again that this is the public's time to provide feedback to council relating to this bylaw amendment. Council is not required to answer questions from the gallery. Council may ask questions of the speakers after each presentation for clarification purposes, and there will be no debating the bylaw. Would administration like to present? Mr. Proctor, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Council and Your Worship. Bylaw 2526 runs in tandem with Bylaw 2525. We heard previously the public hearing for 2525, which was the bylaw to amend the municipal development plan. Bylaw 2526 proposes to amend the land use bylaw. These bylaws are proposed in tandem so that the developer can proceed with the next steps of development if supported by council. There are some legal things I need to do in the public hearing, and that's mentioned the legal address for bylaw 2526. A lot of the same report was submitted for both bylaws. A lot of the presentation materials that I presented in 2525 apply to 2526. I'll still include all the slides that I included for the previous public hearing for this one. So just a quick location. It's the same location that we're talking about. This site is located next to the Strathmore High School, Crystal Ridge area. Concurrent applications have been submitted by Green Maple Enterprises, Inc., Harper E. Dillon, on behalf of the two property owners. The legal addresses are Lot 1, Block 1, Plan 1910233, 80 Wheatland Trail. It's the north parcel owned by the golf course. Block 2, Plan 9012129, 60 Wheatland Trail, the south parcel owned by the Turner family. Two applications have been received. Bylaw 2526 is the land use bylaw amendment bylaw proposal. The lands are currently designated P1 Public Service District in our land use bylaw and UR Urban Reserve in our land use bylaw. The application to amend the land use bylaw proposes to redesignate these lands or rezone these lands to R2X Medium Density Attached Housing District, R3 High Density Residential District, and C1 Neighborhood Commercial District. On the right side of your screen, you can see that the layout, the lighter yellow is R2X, the orange color is R3, and the pink is C1. So these were just figures that I had for the last public hearing. This is the land use bylaw 2526. So I mentioned what they're currently designated and what they're proposed to change to, and that's the figure that the developers submitted. This is what the bylaw looks like that's included in your agenda. It's Schedule A of bylaw 2526. No amendments to the existing land use districts are proposed. They're taking the land use districts as they're written in our land use bylaw today. A list of permitted and discretionary uses for each of those districts can be found in the land use bylaw. We have a number of policy examples in our MDP that apply. We've also got some planning best practices that apply that I mentioned in 2526. I'll leave them on the screen. And then again, all the supporting information is in your agenda package. Both reports for 2526 and 2525 are identical. Our recommendation is that council proceed with the public hearing and that council takes into all consideration of the information received tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor. Do we have any questions for Mr. Proctor? Councillor Brown?
Thank you. Can you go back to the drawing with the C1s? Yeah, that one right there. So, sorry, the pink in the middle is the C1s. So these are just, that's commercial. C1 is commercial, right?
That's correct.
And the yellows are sort of townhouses, condos, that sort of thing? Yeah?
Yeah, the yellow would be our R2X district, and that's called our medium density attached housing district. Side-by-side duplexes, I believe the developer mentioned up-down duplexes and townhomes as well.
Right, and the green strip and the orange mean, sorry, what again?
It's a good question. That this is the developer's scheme that they sent to us.
I'm just trying to visualize what it would look like here for a minute.
Yep.
Just, yeah.
So the actual redesignation, this would be the most accurate figure to show on your screen, what they're proposed to. So P1 to C1 there, P1 to R2X, UR to R3, and UR to R2X. Thank you, Councillor Brown, for the question about municipal reserve. Earlier, last public hearing, there is municipal reserve owing. Most of the time, I would say a lot of that land isn't officially designated a land use. If you look at our land use map, Brentwood is a good example. It's all yellow, although there's little parks and pathways in Brentwood. Those little specific parcels don't necessarily need designation if it's just going to be for a pathway or a park.
So we just
for school, we would designate it.
So so for pathways, so there's no school designation in this, but there is sort of 10% owing. Do we have any idea where that 10% might end up?
Thank you, Your Worship and Councillor Brown. This is a decision for administration to make officially at the subdivision stage. I would say that the image on your screen is something that we are thinking about, although no official decision has been made.
Okay. Roughly how many more residences will be added as a result of this development?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I have this paper somewhere. Sorry, it might be at my chair there. I do have the exact numbers here. Is there? Sorry about that, Councillor.
No worries.
Okay, so I asked if there's a density number in mind, and this is what the developer has stated to me. The site site plan proposes approximately 302 residential units, 25 commercial units. I think that's the relevant answer there. Thank you.
And could, if I'm taking too long, the height and style of the residentials, there'll be townhouses and split townhouses, like split levels. In other words, you could have like one upstairs, one downstairs, and 4 stories high was the maximum. Is that correct?
Thank you, Your Worship and Councillor Brown. So it's different in our R2X versus our R3. Our R3 apartment district, the height maximum is 4 stories. I can look up right now what the R2X is real fast for you.
Yes, please.
So I'm just referring to the land use bylaw here.
Thank you.
So building height in the R2X medium density attached housing district is 10 meters for duplex and semi-detached housing. Duplex is traditionally up and down, semi-detached is side by side. So 10 meters for those structures. 12 meters for an attached house, so that's a townhome. And then 5 meters for accessory buildings. Just to put some reference to that, a single detached home height maximum is 10 meters, so about 30-something feet. So these would be similar to a single detached home, with the townhomes being 12 meters, so 2 meters taller than a regular house. The land use bylaw requirements, it's important that I state this, can be varied at the discretion of the approving authority. Variances are something that we are allowed to do. We don't like to do it a lot. A variance of 10% or larger requires circulation to adjacent landowners and an appeal period. So at the development stage, if a building came in, let's say that's 13 meters tall, and worked on the site, functioned, that kind of thing, and administration decided to support it, the adjacent landowners would get a notice in the mail stating that there's an appeal period where they can come and appeal the decision to a local subdivision development appeal board. So there are other steps there. We would be referring to the regulations in the land use bylaw the best we could, though. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that's great. That's all the questions I have. Thank you for your responses.
Thank you. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Your Worship. Looking at the land use bylaw map, I noticed that many of the green areas that we have in town are also designated as P1, Public Service District. Council's new strategic plan prioritizes protecting water and green spaces, and one of the ways that we're measuring that success is through the ratio of municipal reserve or environmental reserve green space per capita net of school site allocations. If we were to approve the redesignation of that parcel from P1 to, as it's described in the, I'll summarize it as it's described in the photo up there, would we be reducing, would that be considered a reduction in the ratio of municipal reserve green space per capita?
Thank you, Your Worship, and Councillor Langmaid. It's a good question. Administration, feel free to jump in here right now, but this land is currently privately owned P1 lands. A portion of it will become town-owned lands, so potentially there's a win for the town there. But any other comments from admin?
Well, the measure of that for council will be the park space per hectare net of school sites. So the 10% MR comes through, and at a future time, council would decide what it wants to do with that MR. You can choose to make it all green space. You could choose to, if there was demand for a new school site, that sort of thing. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but you can have 100% green space of that 10% MR if council so chooses.
Okay, but the current designation that we have is the P1 Public Service. That is not included in that am I understanding that that's not included in this ratio calculation that we're doing?
I don't.
Only the municipal reserve that comes out of it
Right.
would. So
right.
Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I've got my math right.
maybe
If we're adding municipal reserve, that means that ratio would be improving.
Yes, yeah,
we
because
would be improving on the metric.
as
we've
Chuck said,
identified.
it's private lands right now. It's like a private park, if you want to call that the way it is right now. So.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Proctor? Thank you very much. We will proceed with our list of registered speakers. Mr. Harpreet Dillon, you can also step forward if you'd like and speak to bylaw number 25-26.
Thanks again. I think very well covered by Chuck. There's probably not a whole lot to add. Just want to reiterate the alignment with town's vision and alignment with the town's municipal bylaw. So that is very much in alignment. We look forward to any questions you have for us. More than happy to answer any.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Dillon? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, in this public hearing, is there anyone else present who wishes to speak to bylaw number 25-26? Come forward, please.
State my name again. Jennifer Sommerfeld, Jennifer Sommerfeld. With regards to land use bylaw, I'm happy to hear that there is a reserve and that green space or reserve concept and green spaces in the new strategic plan. That I'm very happy to hear. I will add that yes, so I'm going to support that concept because the P1, a permitted use, is natural habitat, but there's many permitted uses in P1, so there's no guarantee that there's green space preserved by designating it P1. So I think there does need to be that zone that is specific for green space. I imagine it much like Nose Hill Park in Calgary, how you have that location that is not to be used for anything else. So I would encourage council to continue that. With regards to the rezoning of R2X, the comparative would be behind Walmart. There is R2X housing there. One of the negatives about R2X housing in that area is that there is one parking space per household. So if you want to visit someone, you have to park on the street on Archie Caliber Trail because there is no public parking. That would be a concern for me with this development, to make sure that there's parking and people are not going to be parking on Wheatland Trail just to visit inside and not take up the commercial parking spaces to do their visiting. And yep, that would be it. I just want to make sure that council takes serious consideration to making some zone designations that preserve the green spaces. That's part of the charm of Strathmore that drew us here 20 years ago to the area, brought us here a couple years ago to call it home for the next 20 years. And we have 3 generations in this community now. I'm well, soon to be. I'll be a grandma in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And so we want to be able to see the green space preserved, lots of trails and prairie skies. Thank you. Any questions before I sit down?
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Jennifer? Councillor Brown?
No, but thank you for coming up again. I do appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Administration, would you like to make any closing comments?
Thank you, Council and Your Worship. Again, not intended to be an argument against Jennifer S., who spoke earlier. In bylaw 2526, there's no P1 designation proposed. What's being proposed is that the town take on a chunk of municipal reserve that the town, the people, will own. It will be up to us to decide what happens in that land. So permitted or discretionary use won't really matter, in my opinion, in that case. It'll be a small strip of land that we own and that we control. My other closing statement is that all the parking requirements are located in the existing land use bylaw and would be reviewed at the development permit stage by administration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions of clarification from council? Seeing and hearing none, I will close the public hearing for bylaw number 25-26, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw number 14-11 at 8:13 p.m. And now that the public hearing is closed, council will no longer accept any new information before making a decision. And we move now to item 5, bylaws. Bylaw 5.1, Municipal Development Plan Bylaw, amending bylaw number 25-25, amendment number 2, 60 to 80 Wheatland Trail. Mr. Proctor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Administration has nothing further to add. We're happy to answer any questions. Our recommendation is in the agenda. We're recommending second and third reading tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Proctor? Councillor Brown?
The size of this area is roughly the same size as what is located at Thomas and Centennial, that new development that's going there. Sir, how many units are going into that new apartment development in that area?
Sorry, Thomas and Centennial, which one would that be?
So there's an industrial park near Ryland's Glass and near Center Street, between Center Street and Thomas on Centennial, like in the center of town.
It's the one in Bayside.
Yeah, how many units are in there? Just curious.
We've got 3 official applications underway. I don't know the existing number of units for the one that's already built in the north part of Bayside Place. I don't know the exact number of number 9 Bayside Place. I believe it was over 100 apartment units.
Over 100.
We've received another application for the north half of the Bayside Place, and then there's also the 115 Bayside Place as well. We've received an official application for an apartment on that corner as well.
Okay. And so, and this new one is about 300 new residents, right?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Brown, yes, the developer estimates that it's around 302 residential units. It'll be a mix of duplex, townhouse, and apartment units. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, just trying to picture it in my head. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. If there are no further questions for Mr. Proctor, then we're looking for a motion for second reading, which will then allow us to have debate and discussion and comments. Councillor Hyde?
I move the council give second reading to bylaw number 2525, being the Municipal Development Plan Bylaw, amending bylaw.
Thank you. And now that we have a motion for second reading, we can have discussion. Are there comments from councillors concerning this bylaw or this situation issue that we're dealing with? Councillor Brown?
Didn't even hit the button. Always concerned about rapid growth, where things are placed and sort of the impact on the surrounding areas and the infrastructure and so forth, as we should be. But I have to say that, a town's got to grow. We do have to create commercial space. We do have to create jobs, and we do have to bring people into the wonderful community that we all live and enjoy. And I just wanted to say that, I've got a lot to think about on this one, but I've heard a lot of good comments. Really happy that Jennifer came in. Happy also to the developers that came in, and Tibor, thank you for speaking. I had a friend in elementary school named Tibor, just so you know that. I'll remember that name forever. Just wanted to thank everyone for coming in and sharing their points of view and the professional input that you've provided as well, and you've answered all my questions quite satisfactorily. So yeah, I'm ready to move on to get a motion on the floor.
Thank you. We do have a motion on the floor. I am in favor of this project. I think for far too many years in Strathmore, it has been a seller's market for detached housing. It has been a landlord's market as far as rental. There haven't been units available for people. They've had to pay exorbitant prices. We've heard stories from another councillor who unfortunately couldn't be here of people having to leave town because they couldn't afford to find a place to rent in town that was something that they could attain. We're a growing community. We can't stop progress. We can manage the progress, and that's where our planning department and our staff is heavily involved. The other good thing about this project, it's close to all servicing. It's close to our downtown area, and it will also provide a commercial base for the people who live there. They'll be able to have some commercial amenities right in the area they live. There will be some opportunities for us to have good, solid green space. And I just think it's going to help us. There's going to be a lot of jobs coming, regardless of what de Havilland does in the area. There are going to be a lot of jobs that are coming up, and people are going to need places to live. So I will be supporting this motion. Councillor Hyde.
Looking at the present vacancy rate in Strathmore, it's paramount that we look at increasing the inventory that is there for our residents, for future residents, for our children. My kids are all hitting that age where they're starting to look for a home beyond rental, and having more homes available within the town of Strathmore is a positive thing. I also appreciate the way that this plan starts to tie Hillview a little bit, knits it a little bit more closely with the rest of the existing town, and being able to take advantage of our existing infrastructure. So I'll be watching this closely, but I certainly I support this amendment to our bylaw for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or discussion points? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. We're now looking for a motion for third reading. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move that council give third reading to bylaw number 25-25, being the Municipal Development Plan bylaw, amending bylaw.
Thank you for that motion for third reading. I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. We move now to 5.2, Land Use Bylaw amending bylaw number 25-26, 60 to 80 Wheatland Trail. Mr. Proctor, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nothing from administration. Thank you, Your Worship.
And council, do you have further questions for Mr. Proctor? And if there are no questions, then we're looking for a motion for second reading, which would allow further discussion or comments. Councillor Hyde.
And that's this one.
Yeah.
Excellent. I move the council give second reading to bylaw number 2526, being a bylaw to amend the Town of Strathmore Land Use Bylaw.
Thank you. And now that we have that motion for second reading, do we have discussion or comments on it? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call the question again. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And now we're looking for a motion for third reading. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move that council give third reading to bylaw number 25-26, being a bylaw to amend the Town of Strathmore Land Use Bylaw.
Thank you for that motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you to all the public who are here. Thank you to all the presenters. And thank you, Mr. Proctor, and Ethan, thank you, Mr. Wilson, for your ability to answer questions as well. We move now to comment on public comments. Members of the public are welcome to provide comments regarding items on tonight's agenda. It's your time to let council know your thoughts. Comments will not be taken from the gallery after this portion of the meeting concludes. And while council welcomes public comments and questions, there is no debating during this section of the agenda. I'd like to remind anyone that if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. I'll ask you to go to the microphone. Please state your name and spell your name for the record. You have 5 minutes to speak to an item that may be on today's agenda and hasn't been discussed yet. We ask that speakers try to be succinct with comments focused on presenting council with new information. And before we get started, please be aware that a bell will ring at the 4-minute mark, providing you 1 minute to conclude your comments. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak on another item on our agenda tonight? Seeing none, we can move on. We have no delegations tonight, and we move to item 8, consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any councillor would like to see removed and discussed separately? And if not, then we're looking for an omnibus motion that is in our skeleton agenda. Councillor Brown, thank you.
I would like to move for an omnibus motion on this, if there's no one who's going to speak. No? Okay, I move that council adopt the recommendations of the following agenda reports by an omnibus motion. 9.1, regular council meeting minutes, March 18th, 2026. They're boring anyways, you don't want us going through those. 12.2.1, Community Futures Wild Rose Board Package from January 8th, 2026. 12.2.2, Community Futures Wild Rose Board Package, February 5th, 2026. 12.2.3, Community Futures Wild Rose Board Package, March 5th, 2026. 12.2.4, Wademsa Meeting Minutes from March 16th, 2026. 12.2.5, Wademsa Call Volumes from February 2026. 12.2.6, Strathmore Library Board Meeting Minutes from February 17th, 2026. 12.2.7, Wheatland Housing Management Body, WHMB, Meeting Minutes from February 19th, 2026. 12.2.8, Wheatland Housing Management Body, WHMB, Annual Report 2025. 12.2.9, WHMB Site Manager Report, again, Wheatland Housing Management Body. 12.2.10, the Wheatland Housing Management Body, 2025 Audited Financial Statements.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to adopt those recommendations, and I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And now we move on to item 11, bylaws. 11.1, 2026 Central Trunk Sewer Borrowing Bylaw number 26-02. Mr. Brawley, welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Today, we are recommending second and third reading of the Central Trunk Sewer Borrowing Bylaw. A formal bylaw is required by the MGA prior to the town securing debt financing for capital projects. The bylaw will allow the town to borrow $4.927 million over a period of no longer than 25 years at a maximum interest rate of 6% annually. Council had held first reading at the January 21st regular council meeting. Following this, we advertised the bylaw over 2 weekly editions of the Strathmore Times in February. We did not receive any petitions or concerns regarding the bylaw as advertised. The Central Trunk Sewer project is scheduled to take 3 years to complete, and council formally approved the 3-year budget at the January 21st meeting as well. Administration is recommending passing one bylaw for all the budgeted borrowings in one swing, with separate draws taken on the loan each year to match the budget council approved. For your information, as of today, the Alberta Capital Finance Authority borrowing rate on a 25-year loan is 4.36% annually, which equals debt servicing on the 2026 portion of debt of $154,000 annually, up to $327,000 annually when all 3 draws are taken within the 3-year period. If the bylaw is passed, administration will then take steps to secure the financing, with our first draw anticipated in fall of this year. This concludes my comments, Your Worship. Do you or any members of council have any questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Brawley. Do we have questions? Councillor Langmaid?
Thank you, Your Worship. I see here, so I'm reading through the report, I see here, and in what you've described to us, there's 3 total draws in 3 consecutive years, 2026, 2027, and 2028. And I also see and heard you describe the interest rate on a 25-year loan from the government of Alberta is 4.36 as of March 16th. If that interest rate changes between now and when a future draw is taken, would that come back to council if that number is higher than what it is described in this report?
Yeah, up to 6%. So without having a crystal ball like Liana likes to speak to when she talks about it, usually rate hikes wouldn't be that drastic between now and then to that 1.7%. But we would bring that to council's attention if those rates were changing down the road. We could also potentially give council different options on changing the structure of the current financing as well, including possibly taking on more debt, using more offsite levies reserves, if it made sense at that time as well. So yes, if the rates change, we could definitely provide alternatives to what council's previously approved through a budget amendment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't have a question, just a comment. I appreciate the staff, the administration, the finance team as far as their proactive and forward thinking as far as this planning goes. I think obviously with the development that this town is undergoing in the north and west, this is going to be a huge thing for our town. I also like the fact that you've put them together and that the draws will come out annually. It's all clean. It's done in a very clear manner. So I appreciate this. This is one of those things that has to be done for a town's improvement and growth over the years, but I really appreciate the forward thinking and the planning. Thank you. Mr. Strathby.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Just wanted to make a quick note that there's an error in the notes in front of you. The recommended motion for this bylaw is that council give second reading to bylaw number 2602, being the Central Trunk Sewer borrowing bylaw. That's what it should state.
Thank you. Do we have a motion, Councillor Wagoner?
I have a motion. I move that council give second reading to bylaw number 26-02, being the Central Trunk bylaw borrowing bylaw.
Thank you very much. And now that we have a motion for second reading, we can have discussion or debate or comments. Are there any discussion points that people would like to bring forward or debate? Councillor Chisholm.
Thanks. So when we secure this total amount, the tranches happen, and that's when the interest rate is scheduled or strike.
It will depend on which lender we do end up going with. If it happens to be a commercial lender, that might be the option for that. Lock in the rate today with different drawings. That's how a few have worked in the past municipality I worked with as well. If we were to go with the Alberta Capital Finance Authority, I'm not sure that would be an option. They might treat them kind of almost as three separate loans within one bylaw. So don't have a clear answer. We will, of course, have a recommendation, and we'll let council know kind of where we're going with it too.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. Another question?
No, just comments. I just support the debt. This is what I believe I would classify as good debt. The debt taking on allows us growth, as Mayor Fuel had talked about. In addition to that, there's a revenue stream that can be enhanced to help service that debt.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is the kind of forward planning that councils and administration are meant to do. There was some discussion earlier tonight in different conversations about infrastructure and whether we have the ability to handle an increased population and what that would mean for our infrastructure. And these are the type of projects that we take on to be able to handle the growth of our community and to ensure that we have that stability to welcome new residents and also support the residents that already live here. Pardon me. So I just want to thank administration for your work on this, and it's not the world's most exciting project, but it's a very important project, and I appreciate and I'm grateful that we're taking it on.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, I will call the question. All in favor? That motion is carried. Looking for a motion for third reading. Councillor Wagoner.
I move that council give third reading to bylaw number 26-02, being the Central Trunk Sewer borrowing bylaw.
Thank you for that motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. We move now. Thank you, Mr. Brawley. 11.2, designated officer bylaw number 26-06, presented by Ms. Anderson. You get to come from your darkened corner. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Council. So as you know, on June 11th of last year, the FOIP Act was replaced with the Access to Information Act, and administration has been updating bylaws to reflect this new ATIA language. So in front of you, you have an updated designated officer bylaw, which does two things. It updates the definition section for ATIA, and it also incorporates the ATIA bylaw. So if council does adopt this bylaw 26-06, it will repeal the old designated officer bylaw, so 25-12, as well as the ATIA bylaw, which was 25-24 from last year. If there's any questions.
Thank you. Do we have questions? Councillor Wegener?
I'm ready with the motion.
Okay, thank you.
I move that council give first reading to bylaw number 26-06, being the designated officer bylaw.
Thank you. All in favor? That motion is carried. Councillor Wegener again.
I move that council give second reading to bylaw number 26-26, being the designated officer bylaw.
Sorry, there's just one small typo in that as well.
26-06.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. And now that we have a motion for second reading, is there discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? That motion is carried. Councillor Wegener.
I move that council give unanimous consent to proceed with the third and final reading of bylaw 26-06, being the designated officer bylaw.
Thank you. All in favor? That motion is carried. And Councillor Wegener.
I move that council give third and final reading to bylaw number 26-06, being the designated officer bylaw.
Thank you, and I'll call that question. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. We'll move to item 12, councillor information and inquiries. 12.1. Do any councillors have any questions for fellow councillors or wish to make any statements? Councillor Wegener.
I just, kind of a statement. Last week, Mayor Fuel and I were at the Alberta Municipalities Conference in Edmonton. We met with some ministers up there. Seemed something very productive. We met with our MLA there. Had some good meetings. Met some good people up at the Alberta Munis, and yeah, I think it was worthwhile.
Thank you, Councillor Wegener. And if I could add, we had a quick meeting with Minister Hunter, who has directed us to the Ministry of Forestry and Parks concerning the Crown claim on a wetland area that we've been discussing. Had a quick conversation with Minister LaGrange concerning who would be the best person, or where would be the best starting point to get really moving on a CT scanner. And she has directed me to the Ministry of Hospitals and Admissions, or Hospitals and Diagnostics it could be. Anyway, so that's a different starting point for us as well. And just for everyone's information, I had what I would call a tremendous meeting with new Chief Sam Crowfoot this week. I've updated all the council, but it was very productive, very positive. They're very interested in our work and our task force concerning a CT scanner. And he's actually offered the idea of looking at dialysis being something that could be a part of our medical hub as well. So very interesting, very positive. We discussed the Lead by Example powwow, the amounts that the two municipalities would be contributing. And the meeting was so good that he actually has requested that we meet on a more regular basis. First, he said quarterly, but we've already scheduled a meeting in May, and he would like to meet our CAO at that meeting as well. So very, very positive. It was just a pleasure to meet with him and to reminisce. He's a former student and basketball player of mine. Kept calling me coach during the meeting, so it was really, really refreshing. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Board and committee reports we've done. Question and answer period. Do any counselors have any questions for administration? Counselor Chisholm.
Question, CEO Scoble, to whoever, potholes. What's our strategy and when do we? What- When do we do that?
Well, through the chair, hopefully snow is over, but we're not sure of that. But yeah, we pay attention to that every spring when it's appropriate. But I did want to note that there's some, I think I know a road that was brought up earlier at this, the meeting tonight was actually, it's actually a private road, the road near Walmart. That's not a public road. So we usually have to contact developers to say, you guys have to get on top of this.
Counselor Brown.
Not potholes. How's the door coming at the rec center?
Through the chair, Councillor Brown, my understanding is that, well, I know the parts were ordered pretty much the next day. I haven't received an update that we should be looking at, the doors are functional when it's warm out. Excuse me, so obviously we've been manning them the last couple of days. Hopefully in the next couple of days they can be locked open, and that we'll have the new replacement doors in by mid-May, which was 4 to 6 weeks as indicated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Counselor Langmaid.
The third part of my pothole question. Counselor Chisholm stole the first part. Director Dugdale, you stole the second part, but I have a third part. So I understand that the road by Walmart is privately owned as well as the one that goes into the Edgefield shopping area. Those two roads tend to be serial offenders for potholes in the spring season. And I'm wondering, do we have a certain expectation, a policy that folks need to follow when they're building these private roads? And specifically to the Edgefield Road, is there ever a time in the future where the town would need to adopt that road into our own servicing and asset management system? And if it is, how do we manage that? Because at this point, I think that road might be more patches than real road.
So I guess through the chair to answer your first question, we typically, in terms of the development permit process, we would take development securities that allow us to do some work if it's deficient in the first couple of years when development's complete. But typically after that, there's no real process for us to, I mean, they have to develop the roads to a certain standard, but we don't hold money back for potholes forever, for example. In terms of that road becoming part of our network, I don't believe it will. If it would, we would want it developed to a different standard. So what we look at in terms of developments when they're built is, are those roads likely to handle heavy traffic, to what degree, and our infrastructure department looks at that and reviews that in that regard and decides how they're built.
Thank you.
CAO Scoble.
I'll just add a little bit to that. So the private roads really aren't built that much differently than the town-owned roads through the engineering servicing standards that Jamie referred to. They're part of the development permit. So it's not really how the road is built unless something has been missed in the inspection during the building of it or whatever, but it's more the maintenance practices, right? So the town, of course, has a very fulsome maintenance practice. So it seems to be more related to maintenance than road construction. That said, this is a terrible year for potholes. It's going to be, you've had all this freeze thaw going on and these multiple heavy snow events. When water gets under cracks in asphalt that form and freezes, that's what causes this type of thing. So, you know, I guess I'm warning everybody that we're on top of it, but you're going to see one of the worst years this year just with this strange winter we've had, and you know, the snowpack in the mountains is almost twice what it was last year. Like, there's been a lot of snow this year and a lot of melting of that snow and a lot of new snow, and it's that freeze thaw, water getting in cracks that causes your problems. So
Yeah, I hit one of the ones that is, might be better described as a swimming pool over by Edgefield there, and ended up with a flat tire not that long ago. So it's just something that I know is a recurring issue in town, so I appreciate your answers. I really do.
but again, we would encourage residents, please put in a CCF. We're out looking for them, but if you see one, they pop up pretty quick, let us know and we'll get on it. So,
Counselor Brown.
Yeah, in a similar vein, spring, you know, a lot of water accumulation, ground still frozen and that. the alleys, when do we have a plan to come in and maybe do a bit of maintenance on those in the near future?
Through the chair, yeah, we do have a regular program we do with alleys. I would say historically, we've been a little deficient in terms of materials, so we're trying to rectify that in the next couple of years. But yeah, once we get to spring, that's when we'll start to do some of that alley work.
Perfect, thank you very much.
CAO Scoble.
Just to add to that, like we've ordered more materials, but there's a lot of materials gets pushed to the sides. So we're trying to bring that back and recycle as much of that as we can. So, you know, we will be working with residents if they have something that's within the lane right of way to move that. But again, residents can really help us out by not impeding that because we can actually recover a lot of the gravel that's been pushed to the sides.
That's wonderful, thank you.
Thank you all. 12.4, Jonathan, any administrative inquiries? And I don't think we have any notices of motion, no correspondence. So that brings me to the adjournment. I will adjourn the April 1st, 2026 regular council meeting at 8:43 p.m.